What's up, everybody? This is Frank Red, and you're locked in the dungeon. Hit me up at Big Frank Red, and I got to be honest with you, because I'm not a liar. I remember, like, literally 10, 11, 12 years ago, showing up to host a show on the mighty KHGK 1140 up in Sac. And I've always had great producers. They took care of everything. I would show up, I would do the show prep, and hopefully at some point, we got to the point where we were doing good radio. I think the ratings would suggest that we were. But the tech stuff, I didn't always have to pay attention to that. I literally been talking now for about 5 minutes or so, and I wasn't live. I thought I was live, but I wasn't live. I just wish everybody would try for once to just do some type of content creation. You know, even if nobody ever sees it, just do some type of content creation, because you'll realize how hard it is and how difficult it is. But we got all the bells and whistles checked right now. I apologize for being late. But I was talking to myself. I thought I was talking to an audience. I was talking to myself. I apologize for that. Some of the things I talked about is the San Francisco Giants winning their 9th game in a row. They now have a record of 41-32. Jock Peterson tied the game in the 8th with his 8th home run of the year. And then in the 9th inning, he was walked home by the talented Josh Hader to give the Giants the victory. We're almost at the halfway mark, folks. And Giant fans, if you saw this coming, 41-32 after 73 games, raise your hand. Raise your hand, because I didn't see it coming. Gabe Kapler's taken a lot of hits. Some probably are valid, but a lot of them apparently are not valid, because he's connecting with his players and with his team. And I'm just happy for Giant fans. I also mentioned that Lindsey Harding, a young lady assistant coach of the Sacramento Kings, has a tremendous opportunity. She's going to be the head coach of the Stockton Kings this year. And I am so excited for her, because she's done everything in the game. I mean, she was a great player at UConn, All-American, played in the WNBA quite a few years, and then transitioned to the NBA as an assistant. And I spoke earlier when I said that when Mike Brown took over as the head coach, there was no assurances that she was going to be retained. She not only got retained to Mike Brown's staff, but she has continued to flourish. And because of her hard work, her dedication, and maybe her even stepping up saying, yo, I want this opportunity, she's going to be the head coach of the Stockton Kings, as Bobby Jackson, one of the real hometown heroes of the Sacramento Kings. He did such a great job last year as the head coach of the Stockton Kings that he's moving on to Philly. He's going to be a part of Nick Nurse's staff. And I think that's fantastic. Excuse me. Apologize for that. My name is Frank Red. You can hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter. We're trying to run those numbers up, all right? But run them up authentically. You know, if you like what I do, you enjoy my commentary on Twitter, you disagree with me, you have information that you think can help me get better at what I do, then hit me up. You can subscribe. I'll follow back. And if you like this particular program in the Dungeon Show on YouTube, subscribe. We probably have like 45, 46 subscribers at this point. I'm real honest about that stuff. We're gonna get it up to 100. And when we get 100 subscribers, then we'll start having some guests. In the meantime, it's just gonna be me and you running it back and forth, talking about primarily sports, but sometimes there are things that intersect with the world of sports, and we will talk about that as well. But I got some fun things planned, so the sooner we can get to 100 subscribers, then I think that that will be good for myself, and also good for the listeners. All right. Now, I debated whether or not I was going to do a show tonight because obviously the later you do shows, at the start, the less people that you will be entertaining live. A lot of people are watching the shows at various times, but I like to have a captive audience. I like to see people interacting in the chat, asking questions, and so on and so forth. As you guys know, if you listen to the show, I like to do a lot of show prep. So for every half an hour that I'm on air, I do an hour of show prep. So I've done about 2+ hours tonight. Fact checking, thinking about ideas, topics, so on and so forth. So when you do that work, you want to get it out. Tomorrow I will not do a show because I'm busy doing something else. But Thursday night, I think that you guys can probably expect to see me on YouTube, maybe in numerous shows talking about the NBA draft. So what I wanted to do tonight is really highlight 4 players who could conceivably be drafted in the first round on Thursday night. And then I want to talk about Michael Jordan, because I was on Twitter tonight, this afternoon, and somebody had said something so ridiculous about Michael Jordan that I felt that I needed to comment about it. Jimmy Robinson, how you doing, brother? And he asked, who do I think goes number 2 after Victor Wembanyama? Let me say this. I just watched the Met 92 and the G League Elite game on NBA TV before I came on air. It's probably the 3rd time I've watched this game. And let me tell you this. The Charlotte Hornets are on the cusp of either ascending or setting their franchise back 5 years based on who they take with the number 2 pick. I'm taking Scoot Henderson all day. I don't care that Brandon Miller is a prototype small forward. And he is. He looks like an all-star. But Scoot Henderson, you know who Scoot Henderson reminds me of? The first Isaiah Thomas. That's what Isaiah Thomas looked like. And I know a lot of people are too young to remember Isaiah Thomas. Scoot Henderson is Isaiah Thomas 2.0. That's who he reminds me of. Because he has the quickness. I'm not going to say the quickness. I think he has the quickness of Russell Westbrook. Certainly not quite the explosion. He's not as big and strong. But he has the quickness of Russell Westbrook. And seemingly, he has the toughness and the mind of Isaiah Thomas. Right, Mark, you're right. Nick Wright saying Michael Jordan's GOAT status should be tarnished because of his ownership. Come on, man. Really? Come on, Nick. Nick, you know what? Nick is one of those guys that he's always looking for the plug. He's always looking for something that's going to make people mention his name. And he did that. He actually has a pretty interesting narrative story, with his family, stuff like that. That kind of makes you want to like the guy off mic. But on mic, he says some ridiculous things. This is ridiculous. And I'm going to talk about that a little later. But I'm taking Scoot all day. Jimmy, who would you take? Because I'm taking Scoot. Now, I'm almost hoping that Charlotte takes Brandon so Portland gets the number 3. And then they could trade Scoot to New Orleans for Zion Williamson. I would love to see that. Because I think Zion needs a sea change. All right? Beyond all of the fatty, delicious food in New Orleans that maybe he can't control his assumption to, there's some other stuff out there. And, everybody can do their own homework. I'm not going to bring that to the In the Dungeon program. I'm not going to do that. But it's all over the internet. And you guys know that. I think he needs to change his geography. I'm not best friends with Damian Lillard, but I've been around Damian Lillard quite a bit. And I know the people who have influenced him. I know his coach, his high school coach, and a lot of people who have been around Dame. Dame is a class act, and he's the real deal. So to imagine a guy like Zion Williamson with that type of talent being under the umbrella of a Damian Lillard, that's good for Zion, it's good for Dame, but it's also good for the NBA. I mean, when you consider the Portland... Oh, Mark said Voodoo Donuts are in Portland. Well, you know what? If I'm the Portland Trailblazers, I pay them not to give Zion more than X amount of donuts, all right? And I take pictures of everybody who's associated with Zion. I don't give them the donuts either. I'm resorting to that level if I have to keep this guy out of Voodoo Donuts until he matures. Because here's the thing, we all mature. Believe it or not, Charles Barkley, who I guess he's taking Zen. I don't know what he's taking, but apparently Charles allegedly is taking some type of medication to help him kind of control his weight. He even said that. Charles Barkley, he admitted that he was over at one point over 350 pounds, which is not good, all right? And I'm a big guy. It's not good. I'm 300-ish, all right? I know people are like, what, Red? Yo, but I'm a big dude, so it's not a lot of stuff all over the place, but my goal is to lose 20 pounds this summer. That would help me and maybe make me think I could be crazy enough to get back on a basketball court and set some picks. But I need to do that. And it's all diet because I work out all the time. I work out 5 times a week, so it's not the exercising, and I eat pretty well also. But if you're gonna be at your best physically, it's nutrition at a certain point. It's your diet. It's a combination of all these things. But my point was, Charles Barkley played at 265 for literally like a 10-year period of his NBA career, maybe 11 years. That's why he was so darn dominant. This dude, whatever he needed to do, he did it. And you got to give Charles Barkley all the credit in the world for that, because he played at 265. And when Charles Barkley was in college, he was over 300 pounds, right? So it can be done. It can be done. And Zion is bigger than Charles. He's taller. But Zion needs to play at no more than 280. 280. That's a lot of weight for an NBA player. But he's a big guy. I think he would be able to carry 280. But anything over 300 pounds, and Zion's probably around 3, he 3+, we know this. That's just too much weight. And it's why New Orleans, I believe, didn't play him, because he was susceptible to some really serious injuries. So I think they did what they needed to do. They wanted him to play, but he was too big. So Thursday is going to be interesting. There's a lot of things in the air. I mean, if Portland decides that they want to draft Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson and look to the future, it's not the worst thing in the world either. And at that point, I think Damian Lillard has to say, you know what? I'm going to ride this out. I'm going to be a part of maybe these young kids' narrative and their journey. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to retire Portland Trailblazers. I'm going to go down as the greatest player in the history of the franchise. There'll be some conversations with regards to him and Bill Walton. Bill Walton did win a NBA title. So there's a lot of people that believe that he's the greatest Trailblazer of all time. I think Dame's body of work might be equal to that now, or maybe even surpass it. I don't know. You have to be a Trailblazers fan, to really give an in-depth opinion on that because I can't do that. I'm not up in Portland, but I do know Dame a little bit. And I mean, class act. When you were a kid, can you imagine being a child and seeing your hometown hero exceed your expectations? I gotta think that happens to Dame all the time. You never forget that. I mean, I'm fortunate enough working in media, I've met my idols. And it's my two idols, well, three, and I met all of them. I met Walt Frazier. I actually met Walt Frazier at Arco. And, you know, Walt Frazier, man. Walt Frazier, this is how good Walt Frazier was. Walt Frazier was 6'4", a 6'4" point guard in the 70s. You know how good Walt Frazier would be in today's game? Dude was 6'4", quick, one of the best defenders in the league, if not the best. And he could score, and he was cool, the coolest man in Harlem. Walt Clyde Frazier. So that's my first idol. My second idol I met in the elevator at a Sharks game with his family, Ronnie Lott. Yo, man, who doesn't love Ronnie Lott? And he was just as cool as I hoped that he would be. And he's with his family, and he was just Ronnie Lott, just cool. Checking out a Sharks game, you know, so it kind of tells you, you know, his diversity when it comes to sports and all that good stuff. But we had a nice, you know, couple of minute chat. My number one idol of all time was Magic Johnson. Is Magic Johnson. I met Magic multiple times, but I met Magic. First time I met Magic was at Fordham, actually, when I was in college. He was doing a commercial, and he was awesome. He was awesome. Just like you see Magic in the commercials, that's how he is in real life. Then I met him again at Arco. He was there with the Lakers when they were playing the Kings. And there's a reason why he's so successful, because he is who he is. He is who he is. So, you know, I digress a lot because I got a lot of stories. I've been able to live this incredible life and be in the right place at the right time. Not necessarily because I did anything special or I was brilliant and anything like that. A lot of time it's timing. Serendipity is a big thing in life, and it certainly has helped me live out many of my dreams. And I just referenced that because that's kind of what I think Portland has with Damian Lillard. Now, would I like to see him challenge for a championship? Yes. Yes, I would. Would I like to see him go to Miami? I would like to see that. You know, but Miami had to send something back. Is Portland interested in Tyler Hero or any other pieces that Miami might have? But Miami appears to be the destination that best fits Damian. I know he's talked about Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is great. All right, Brooklyn is great. They got some good young pieces. They're gonna re-sign Cam Johnson. He's gonna get a bag. You know, they got Markel Bridges, and you got Dame Lillard. That's not bad. Who's the best player you played against in college? Oh man, I'm gonna date myself a little bit, but I played against Michael Jordan twice. And he was by far the best player I ever played against. And the funny thing is, you know what? I was okay. I was pretty good because I was physical. I could play basketball. We played them at Stanford. But I was a freshman. I had, I want to say, 11 points. He didn't play that well against us. Mike shot like 5 for 16. Check out their lineup. Check this lineup out. Kenny Smith and I know each other pretty well. Kenny's my boy. Kenny and I were like rivals in high school back in New York. So I know Kenny very well. But their starting lineup was Kenny Smith, Buzz Peterson, Brad Daugherty, Sam Perkins, and Michael Jordan. Come on, man. Come on. And the one thing about playing at Fordham, right? Fordham, we had a great coach in Tom Penders. Tom Penders is in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. So most of Fordham's players, they look for toughness and they look for intelligence. So we had tough, smart players. We had two guards that were awesome. Jerry Hobby, who is an assistant now at the University of Washington, has been a college assistant for 25 plus years, has recruited so many players who've gone to the NBA. And a guy by the name of Tony McIntosh, who had an opportunity to play cornerback at Notre Dame. And he went to Fordham and played basketball. So we had some tough dudes. We wound up losing by 16 points. And we were down by like 14 at halftime. So we played Carolina to within, say, 2 points in the second half. The only moment that I had that was kind of funny was like the referee came up to me and he was like, son, you have to play in the game. For one particular play, I found myself watching Carolina play, which was crazy because I did okay. I had like 11 points that game. I was like a freshman, something like that. But I saw Michael, and keep in mind, people who say Michael was so much. I mean, we know NBA Michael, but Michael was the best player in college. Anybody who thinks this dude was not the guy in college, he was the guy in college. He was. I had never seen anybody go up for a rebound and their elbow was over the rim. Mike did that. He jumped up, and if anybody's ever been on Stanford's floor, Stanford has springs in their floor, so it's a bouncy floor anyway. Pretty incredible. One of the unique venues in all of college basketball because it has those springs in the floor. I don't know if it's because of earthquake protection. I have no idea. But Mike goes up with his tongue out, and his elbow is over the rim. He snatches the ball. Yes, crazy hops. And he has abnormally large hands. No human should have that. I mean, Dr. J and Michael have the largest hands that I've ever seen before. But yeah, so Mike was the best player I've ever played against. I played against a lot of great players. Mullen. I'm gonna tell you who was crazy good. Who's the guy from North Carolina State? I can't think of his name right now. But he was really, really good. Got drafted by the Warriors and just really tore his career up because of drugs. I can't think of his name right now. But he was really, really good also. Basketball is interesting because once you become an adult, and I mean, like you're 20, 21, 22 years old, if you have functional size, right, for your position, yeah, Chris Washburn. I played against Chris Washburn a lot before he got drafted because he was actually, his agent was the great Gus Williams, a company Gus Williams had formed back in New York. So Washburn used to, we used to play pickup all the time at the PAL on Webster Street in the Bronx. And it was, it's like a 10-minute walk from Fordham, so I would go up there and I would play all the time. I saw Chris Washburn give it to Brad Daugherty. I mean, give it to him. You could probably go to YouTube and find it. Listen, Chris Washburn, in terms of talent, was crazy talented, but he had other things, man. And for somebody like myself who, I'm pretty much a square, man. And a square in a good way, because I never wanted to let my teammates down, right? And in high school, I had tremendous teammates, and they've all become very accomplished in their own worlds, and I would include myself in that as well. You know, I've done, I think, pretty well at what I do, beyond radio, whatever, you know, and that's what we strived for. So it was a situation where you never really wanted to let anybody down, you know. That's why I'm such a strong advocate for sports, because I think when that leadership is there and that camaraderie is there, it really does affect you more than anything else, to me, more than anything else. You know what's funny? Okay, so you asked about Len Bias. When I was a freshman, we played in a tournament with Len Bias. Len Bias, it was Fordham, Maryland, Stanford, and I want to say maybe Hawaii Pacific or Hawaii Maui, whatever. They would bring all those teams over there basically for free just to play in tournaments. Len Bias was a monster, all right? And Len Bias is the only person I've ever seen outplay Michael Jordan. You know, he did. And again, it's on YouTube. You go watch the ACC championship game, and I believe Mike was a freshman. Maybe Len Bias was a sophomore. I'm not quite sure. But Len Bias was a beast, man. I mean, you're talking about 6'8", 3-point range, strong rebounder. You know, wasn't a tremendously great ball handler or anything like that, but he was okay. But, I mean, you talk about a Hall of Famer. That's how he was a Hall of Famer. We didn't play Maryland, so I never played against Len Bias. But I was in a tournament with him, and I saw what he could do. I mean, imagine just like somebody with a 40-inch vertical, 6'8". I mean, shoulders like Karl Malone, and a smooth jumper from like 25 feet. And he'll dunk on you. That was Len Bias. I mean, literally one of the great sports tragedies in the history of sports. The Boston Celtics drafted him early. You can't do that anymore. But the Boston Celtics drafted Len Bias early with the assumption that he would succeed Larry Bird as their next great player. And he would have. I mean, Len Bias' death set the Celtics back probably like 4 or 5 years as it relates to basketball. But emotionally, there's no telling. I'm sure there are people out there who still have not recovered from that. He was that impactful as a player, but seemingly just a great person, you know, who was destined to do wonderful things. And to see him tragically die, you know, allegedly because of drugs. I think it's well documented at this point. That was tough. So yeah, man, I've been lucky to play against a lot of great players. Chris Mullin. I mean, you know, I'm gonna tell you about Chris Mullin. Chris Mullin was the first basketball player that was essentially a superstar in high school. Now, I'm not talking about like some superstar player who, when he get off the court, a bunch of 11-year-olds are running to get autographs. I'm not talking about that. Mully was a superstar among all basketball players. High school, college, and the NBA. Everybody knew Mully. You know, everybody, that's how good Chris Mullin was. Chris Mullin's high school games were like on what would be equivalent to CBS. You know, he played a game against Alexander Hamilton with Jerry Ice Reynolds. That game was on like regular television. That's how good he was. And Mully would put numbers up like 42 points, 26 rebounds, 8 assists. I mean, yeah, man. You know, I'm not going to talk about it tonight, but there was a game that, Len Bias, you know, Len Bias is just You know, he was literally the best player in college out of everybody. And I guess Jordan was maybe a freshman. But Len Bias, I mean, when Len Bias was a sophomore, everybody knew that was the dude over everybody. And he wound up getting drafted number 3 overall by the Boston Celtics. So, I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there's a prototype to Len Bias in today's game. I think he probably has like the shot making ability of like a Paul George or a Jason Tatum, because he was around 6'8". You know, he was tall. The difference is he came from Baltimore, man. This dude was a tough guy. He was a tough. I mean, he was like Draymond Green. He played with that type of mentality. So if you can imagine somebody just being ultra talented, like I guess KG, he kind of had a KG type mentality, because he was really a blue collar type guy, but he had tremendous ability, and that was special to see, because a lot of players, they have tremendous talent, but seemingly it doesn't mean anything to them. And I think that's where we are right now in today's NBA. And I'm not one of these get off my lawn type of people, but the connection that I have with like a Stephen Curry and a Klay Thompson and a Draymond Green is because they're all different, but that winning matters a lot. Winning matters to Steve Kerr. It matters. And I can't say that it matters to everybody. It doesn't seem that way. It seems like I'm even now with like the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets won the championship, and they were the best team, I thought. But I don't think there's anybody out there that's like, I'm gonna bet my house on the Denver Nuggets right now. Even Jokic. I mean, I thought it was a little embarrassing to me when Jokic was decrying wanting to go back to Serbia to watch, I want to go home now. I mean, okay, dude. I get it. I don't know what it is to be in another country, and I understand you want to go home, but these fans, that city, everything the NBA has given you, I mean, you don't have to play in the NBA. So I thought that was a little crazy. And he kind of came back a little bit and said that, he misspoke and he loved being here and stuff like that. But you can always tell when winning matters. I'll just say that. You can always tell when winning matters, and it certainly means a lot to a lot of players of this particular era. But I'm going to tell you something. Over the past couple of days, I didn't even take a deep dive. It was just casually. I was on the internet. There is so much good Kobe Bryant content out there. It is amazing how much content there is out there of Kobe Bryant just kind of talking and demonstrating various aspects of basketball, or talking about basketball and correlating his love of basketball to aspects of his life. It's amazing. And no one's ever doubted whether or not that guy wanted to win, whether or not winning was important. Truly a great loss, and everybody in that tragedy is a great loss. Life is funny, man. That's why I try to be passionate about what I do, and I try to live every day like it might be your last day. You never know. That's why when I said, if I'm going to spend 2 hours to do show prep, and this stuff is in my mind right now, I got to do a show. I don't care if there's 2 people watching, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter. That's not what it's about. It's just about getting it out. That's what it's about. I can digress and I can talk and go off on tangents, but let me try to get back to why I want to do this show tonight. There are 4 players I want to talk about. The first one, and I'm sure you guys are aware of him, if you follow NBA draft stuff and college basketball. But this kid, Ben Shepherd, out of Belmont, he reminds me of Klay Thompson. Okay, he reminds me of Klay Thompson. His fundamentals are flawless. His ability to catch and shoot is perfect. He can put on the deck a little bit too, and he's 6'6", so he's not like a smaller dude. Kind of has narrow shoulders. He's gonna have to hit the weight room to get bigger, but I believe someone is going to get a steal in this year's draft, and one of those, and one of them will be Ben Shepherd. All right, I'll speak a little bit more about him after I mention some of the other guys, but he reminds me of Klay Thompson. Enough said. High release, catch and shoot. No wasted movement in his shot. Klay was a lockdown defender. I'm not saying this guy is, but keep your eye on Ben Shepherd out of Belmont. Next player is Brandon Podzinski. Transferred to Santa Clara last year. WCC Player of the Year. 6'5", lefty. Got pretty big shoulders. He's a well-built guy. And apparently he's probably had some pretty good workouts because he can shoot. Shoot the ball real well. He's represented by Bill Duffy, agent who I know and respect. I don't love his release. I don't. He catches the ball kind of like up in his chest, and he rides it up into a shooting position. He's a lefty, and he can put the ball in the basket. Once he's open, he puts it in the basket. But he kind of reminds me of Jimmer Fredette. The only difference between him and Jimmer, and there's some big differences. Jimmer was 6'3". This guy is 6'5", 6'6". He kind of has some Dante DiVincenzo in him, but I watched the whole tape for 10 minutes. I didn't see him pass the ball one time. Now, maybe that's because they set the tape up that way to really show what a great shooter he was, because he has range beyond 25 feet. There's no doubt about that. He can shoot the ball. But if I'm the Warriors, if I'm the Kings, I think they have better options. I think that he might be a late first-round draft pick for a team that wants to take a flyer that has multiple first-round picks, because he has a definite skill set. He can shoot. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Brandon Podzinski out of Santa Clara. They got him listed as a point guard. This dude's not a point guard. He's not. He needs to work on his right hand. He's a very strong left-hand driver. But I think he's tough. He has some moxie to him. I'm not going to call him Dante, because Dante DiVincenzo's game is very balanced. I don't think his game is that balanced. But you have to respect the game, because look at what Herb Sendek did with Jalen Williams. Good players come out of Santa Clara. If a player come out of Santa Clara, you know that they're going to be coached well. They're going to be coached as well as anybody in a Power 5 conference, Power 5 university. Because Herb Sendek is one of the best coaches in the country. So I respect that. And I'm hoping the best for this young man. But when I evaluated him, I saw some things that would give me pause. At 19. Now from 25 to 30, okay, I can see that happening. Here's a guy who not a lot of people know outside of the Midwest, but is a good player. Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State. 6'6". Built kind of like how Draymond Green was in college at Michigan State. He's like 235. They list him as a small forward. Very talented player. If this was 1985, I would see nothing but red roses in his future. But playing in this era of basketball, he's not a great outside shooter. He's a pretty good mid-range shooter, but he likes to play kind of like an Adrian Dantley type. He wants to feel you on his body. He can make shots under duress with contact. That's not really how the game is played right now. He might be a late first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick, because scouts evaluate shooting now. If you are a shooter, you can make shots, you're a rocket ship. You go up. Even if you have any other deficiencies, if you can show that you can shoot the ball, then people are going to take notice. And I just think that while I think that Bryce is a really good player and he can help some people, I think he might get caught up in just the criteria in terms of how they evaluate players. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about, I'm excited about, is Jaime Jaquez Jr. I've been watching Jaime Jaquez Jr. for 3 years now at UCLA. And I think this dude's going to be a hit. And I think there's some stereotypes that get in his way. Yeah, he's a Mexican American. He and Juan Toscano Anderson are probably going to be the only two players of Mexican descent in the NBA next year. But I think Jaime Jaquez is going to be last year's Christian Braun. I think he's going to be drafted. It wouldn't surprise me totally if the Warriors took him. Wouldn't surprise me because he can do everything. He's going to play right away, regardless of what position he's drafted in. It's really not going to matter. Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to make it in the NBA because, again, he's been coached very well. He's fundamentally sound. He's totally unselfish. He's aggressive on defense. So even if he's not the fastest guy, he doesn't take plays off. Doesn't have the best form in the world, but he can shoot. He can finish. Someone's going to get a steal. He's the second steal I'm going to tell you about. Jaime Jaquez Jr. Any player drafted outside of like late lottery is a steal. If you have 15 players in any draft that assimilate to the NBA and have careers, that's a lot. That's a significant number. That's like, that's 5% of, maybe a little less than that, but that's between 3 and 5% every year of people coming in taking jobs. That's tough. You imagine working for any type of firm and every year is going to be 20 people come in to take 20 jobs away. That's a lot. That's a lot. But I think Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to be a player. He's going to be a surprise in this year's NBA draft. Now, from the Warriors' perspective, I think that they should draft Ben Shepherd. And I know they need bigs. If they drafted Leonard Miller out of the G League or Jackson Davis, it wouldn't surprise me either. But in terms of just like talent, I'm big on Ben Shepherd. After doing a deep dive on him, I think he's terrific. So hopefully you learned something. Those are 4 players that you might want to keep your eyes on as we get closer to the NBA draft. Now, Nick Wright works for Fox. He might not be the only person that feels this way, but he said that Michael Jordan's tenure as an owner of the Charlotte Hornets should impact his GOAT status. I don't know where he's going with that. I don't know what type of criteria he's using. It seems ridiculous to me. Now, if I look at Michael Jordan's ownership solely, was it successful? No. Was it a failure? No, absolutely not. This had to be all new to Mike. And I think that Mike probably was making decisions that he would make as a player. And he was drawing conclusions and making assumptions about players and relating them back to himself. You can't do that. You can't compare yourself to other people. It's a losing proposition. We could all relate to it. If you have children, and I don't know if anybody does out there, but if you have children, you can't assume that your child is going to do and make the same decisions that you would make. In either direction. Maybe they're a better decision maker than you are. Maybe you look at your kid and go, who is this person? You know, I can't believe how brilliant they are. Or it's the other way. Maybe they need more time. And I think Mike made a lot of decisions as an owner based on how he viewed things as a player. And it's a totally different application. It really is. Now, did you ever hear anything negative about Michael Jordan as an owner? Any horrible stories? I didn't. You know, he actually turned the Charlotte Hornets into a profitable entity, building relationships with people in that Charlotte community to the extent that more people would be interested in buying the team, which is what happened. Now, he was the owner for 13 years. I give him credit for maybe acknowledging that he didn't have the passion to do it. You know? Because he could have just hung on. And, you know, you ever seen Mike like this sometimes when he's sitting on the bench looking at these guys? This is his famous pose, like, what am I looking at? This is about grinding. I don't know if Mike was the grinder in this particular position as an owner, but I think everybody has to be a grinder. You know, everybody. You got to look at the tape. You have to evaluate players. You have to be a little more creative in terms of whom you bring into your organization. All of these things. You can't not take players because you don't like the university that they came from. You know, I'm not saying he did that, but there's so many different variables that are at play. You need to have a certain criteria that leads to success. The Miami Heat. It doesn't matter where players come from. When they come into the Miami Heat community, they become Miami Heat players. And more times than not, they prosper. Now, this is why I think Michael Jordan's tenure as the owner was not a failure, and I would say a lightweight success. Number one, the cash return that Mike is getting for selling the Charlotte Hornets is crazy. You know, nobody really knows the real numbers, but we know it's a lot. All right? So the franchise increased while he was the owner. Secondly, I think he finally got it right by hiring Mitch Kupchak, somebody who had. Mitch Kupchak was a tremendous player himself, but won a championship with the Washington Bullets, former Bullets. But he did a great job in Los Angeles, as we all know. And you look at the last two drafts. Mark Williams, out of Duke, 7'1" center. I think he's solid. I think he's rock solid, a great foundational player. And LaMelo Ball. Now, if you ask me who's a better prospect, LaMelo Ball or Scoot Henderson, I think it's Scoot. And now, and I'm sure that Charlotte has gone through all of these machinations in terms of, you know, what can we do and so on and so forth. There has to be people in that building who profoundly want to draft Scoot, but maybe they wouldn't want to team him with LaMelo Ball. Maybe the market isn't great for LaMelo Ball. I don't know. I mean, what is it? I mean, could you get a lottery pick for him? Of course. But outside of the top 3 players in this year's lottery, none of them are home runs. None of them. So it puts Charlotte in a real sticky situation. And word has come out that like Mike wants to make the choice, or his regime. Maybe his regime is Mitch Kupchak. I feel a lot better with Mitch Kupchak making the call on who Charlotte drafts than I do anybody else in the organization at this point. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm impressed with Scoot Henderson. I really am. I mean, I've seen him do things that not many players can do. I mean, coming out of college, you're looking at like Jay Kidd type stuff. All right, you had Isaiah Thomas, you had Jason Kidd. I guess Derrick Rose. I mean, Derrick Rose coming out of college was in his own lane, and he was special also. He was special. D Rose was awesome. But it's not a lot of guys. Think about that. I mean, how many players come into the league and you go, that's that guy? Russell Westbrook didn't have that tag. You see Russell's first year as a member of the Seattle Supersonics, it was choppy. It was real choppy. Now, I'm probably missing somebody, but when I think of dynamic point guards that come into the NBA, Jay Kidd, Isaiah Thomas, not a lot of players. You even look at a Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's first couple of years in Cleveland was rough. D'Angelo Russell, I mean, think about it. Even, maybe it's due to injury, but Steph Curry's, Steph could score, but around season 4 is when Steph really started to make some. Nash was great off the bench. I remember when Steve Nash came in the league, was drafted 15th overall by Phoenix, and he backed up Jason Kidd. And he was solid. He was good. But he wasn't a hit right away. He didn't even start. But he was good. Steve Nash actually came into his own when he got to Dallas. When Don Nelson got him to Dallas, then he just took off. His body, he worked in his body. He got bigger. He got stronger. And obviously a great player. Hall of Famer. We got 48 hours to see what's going to happen in the draft. But Scoot Henderson is somebody who I think is a generational talent. And it'll be interesting to see where he winds up. There's probably going to be some trades, some exciting things happening in this year's draft as well. So, and the last one I'm going to make about Michael Jordan. Michael was the owner of the Charlotte Hornets for 13 years. Shahid Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know when he bought that team? This is going to shock you. He bought that team in 2011. This is 2023. 12 years of nothing. Right? People were laughing. What is this guy doing as an owner? Is he that much better than he was when he bought the team? Probably not. But he stuck with it. He got lucky. I mean, I'm sure we have some successful people listening to the program now. It'd be interesting to see how much does luck play in success. It matters. You got to do the work. Maybe there's some relationships that you can hone in on. But you also got to be lucky. And now Jacksonville is looking like, just because of all the pieces in place now, they're going to be good for the next 5 to 8 years. They're renovating their stadium. They used to volunteer, like raise their hand. Who has the right answer? They used to raise their hand when Goodell would say, who wants to go play in London? just because they knew they would get a good gate. They didn't want to play the empty seats in Jacksonville. So my point is, if Mike wants to buy out, it's all good. But rarely does success not ultimately happen to those who stick with it. You know, he's still going to be a minority owner, so I guess he'll have some semblance of Charlotte's ascension if they ultimately become good. And I think there's a good chance that they will at some point become good. You know, but you got to stick with it. That's all I'm saying. And Mike didn't get an MBA. You know, he was given a team. He bought the team. Started from scratch. You buy the team, you start making decisions. No, this is real stuff. This is hard. So I think Mike's tenure allows for other black people of color to legitimately stake their claim when they have the resources that they should strongly be considered to be an NBA owner. Because I think we take a step back now. To have no black owners in the NBA? This cash cow? So I'm not excited about that. I'm really not excited about that. It's funny because throughout the whole day and even doing this show now, I think it's 5 individuals who are in that tube that were on a journey to see the wreckage of the Titanic. I can't help but not think about those individuals. They have enough oxygen maybe to last them for another 24 to 30 hours. It's just really, really sad, man. It's really sad. And I hope that we have a happy ending over the next 30 hours or so of those individuals in that makeshift submarine, if you will, being rescued. But it's not a good look right now. But I want to send my thoughts and prayers out to them and their families, because can you imagine being in that situation? And I give people who are adventurous a lot of credit, because if no one was adventurous to take those types of chances, we wouldn't grow as a society. So I get it, and I'm not the type of person who will not take chances. I will take chances also, but I don't think I'm going to get into a tube and go to the depths of the Atlantic Ocean to see a wreckage. I just hope there's a happy ending, man. But that's been on my mind. Been praying a lot for the safety of those individuals, and I hope that it comes to fruition. All right, I want to thank everybody out there for checking this program out, man. You need to understand that it really means a lot to me. I guess we got 3 people right at this point. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to get out of here. All right? Success in getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. My name is Frank Red, and this is the In the Dungeon program. You can look forward to seeing me, or not, on Thursday night after the draft. I'll probably be on a couple of shows, so stay tuned for that. As I said, I'm trying to run these numbers up on Twitter, so if you like the program, you can follow me at Big Frank Red. And if you like this particular program and you have not subscribed yet, please do that. All right? With that said, I'm out of here. Ghost. Thank you, everybody.